I was so desperate. I went to sleep in a little cabin in my friend's backyard because I was desperate for sleep and recovery. And I took this book with me, and I read one sentence in this book that changed my life. It said, "Not every opportunity is your assignment."
Welcome to the Demi Learning Show this afternoon, everyone. This is Gretchen Rowe. I am so delighted to welcome my friend Anna Willis. We've been waiting since last May to have this
Yes.
conversation.
It is a privilege and a blessing to be here with you guys today. I think we have so much to share, and we hope that everything we're going to talk about today will really resonate with you and encourage you and give you the practical tips and ideas that you need to implement in your homeschool.
Absolutely. So, Anna, tell us about you, and then maybe we'll have a couple minutes to tell about how you and I met.
I'm a homeschool mom of 3, and I've been homeschooling since kindergarten. My son was 4. I had a 2-year-old and I had a newborn baby. So some of you guys know exactly how it feels. But we were pastoring a church, and we were at the church 10, 12 hours a day with 3 little kids. I come from a Jewish background. I'm the first believer in my family. Now, obviously, my mom is a believer, my dad, my brothers, my children, but I was the first one to give my life to Jesus. And my husband and I have been in ministry full time, since we got married 18 years ago. I was already in full time ministry before, and my husband he's been serving Jesus since the day he was born. And anyway, so this is kind of like how our homeschool story started. There were two families that homeschooled in an entire town of Kenora in Ontario, where it was below 50s in the winter. And we were one of them. And the other one was a Mennonite family that we're still friends with to this day. From there, working at the church, helping with small groups and the women and the youth and all that stuff that, we do with 3 little kids, homeschooling. Fast forward a few years, I burned out completely, and I ended up paralyzed from head to toe in critical care at the hospital. I pushed myself so hard for 3 years. I cried myself to sleep in exhaustion.
You were working, you were a wife, you were a pastor's wife, you were homeschooling 3. No wonder you were burned out.
Yeah. Yes. And all doing good things, because we see the need, we want to fill in the need. So I'll just carry my 3 babies around. I was really blessed that, our first 3 years homeschooling, I know I was exhausted, and we were ministering in the reserves around us. There was 11 reserves around us, and we would go and minister to Native people around us. I mean, like we were doing gymnastics.
And you had 3 kids in 4 years.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
exhaust
In 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So, so anyways, I was really blessed that actually my office at the church had a door to the nursery at the church. So I would literally put my babies down to take naps or play there while I was counseling the woman or the youth. I was helping my husband and helping our seniors pastor and everybody else in the church. So that was my life. I was out at the door at 8 in the morning with 3 kids, and I would come home like 10, 11 o'clock at night every day. And I don't know how many of you guys here are pastors' wives or are involved in ministry. There's no weekends for us. There are no weekends. Very, very hard to take the day off because there's always somebody who knocks at your door or calls you and needs something. Anyways, that's how we start a homeschool. And then I end up burning out completely. And I shared this story with Gretchen, and it was the darkest days of my life, up to recently when, I went through something that I never thought I was going to go through with one of our children. I don't think Gretchen knows that part yet, but anyways, um, it was so hard, and I burned out so badly. And I felt like the Lord saying to me, you need to step down from everything, be fully focused on the ministry I gave you, which is your flock, right? First Peter said that God has given us a flock and we to care for. We're their shepherds and we need to care for them. And as much as I cared for my children, I cared for everybody else, and I forgot to care for myself. Going back, I'm a cancer survivor. I had cancer age 25. So it's not like I can play with my health. I have 5 autoimmune diseases. I mean, we just can't afford to not care for ourselves and to not have boundaries and limitations, because we are limited beings who serve an eternal God who can do all things, and we need to learn to rely more on him, rest more on him, and not try to do everything on our own, right? So uh there's so much that we can add to it, Gretchen. So you know a lot of my story, you know a lot of what I went through. So we've been homeschooling for 14 years now. I got 3 high schoolers. So we all survived and they're all thriving, and it's a blessing, even though we had some difficult days.
I know that those 14 years have gone very quickly. And I also know that some of those days have felt like they lasted forever. But I'm here to tell you those high school years will go faster than you can ever
It
imagine.
is going very fast. I have to say, it is going very fast. So my son is now turning 18 and finishing his last year of high school. My youngest is 14. She's so decided to become an archaeologist and studying at University of Rome. And my middle daughter, she's turning 16 next month, and she started doing Roman at a Bible college, doing psychology at age 14.
One of the things I've always said is that homeschooling is the longest journey you'll ever love. But we have to have faith that we're sowing into that journey, even when we don't see the results of that journey. And,
Yes.
so how does one go from being a wife, a mother, a pastor's wife, serving the community, doing all of those things, and then finding the peace in the process so that you feel like you're productive, but not spread so thin, you're transparent?
Yes. And that is so important for us to actually get to that realization, first of all, that we can't do it all.
Mm.
We can't do it all. We can do a lot, but not all at the same time. We need to learn our limitations. So, doing my burnout, Gretchen, I read a book, and in this book said it's called The Best Yes. And I was so desperate, I went to sleep in a little cabin in my friend's backyard because I was desperate for sleep and recovery. And I took this book with me, and I read one sentence in this book that changed my life. It said, not every opportunity is your assignment. Not every opportunity is your assignment. Some of us tend to just jump in and fill every need. We just want to keep doing, keep going, and we don't want to ask for help. And we get to a point where we're burned out. There's, and being burned out, you guys, it's not just feeling tired. It's like you are hurting your entire body, your relationships, your mental health. I mean, it goes so like your spiritual health. Because in my peak point of burnout, I didn't even have the strength to pray and read the Bible. And the
Mhm.
enemy uses those times and those weaknesses to corner us and to isolate us. And then I went into a deep depression. So we have to be so aware of those things. And it is in that awareness that if we start backing off from the things that are actually causing all of that exhaustion and burnout, and to start asking ourselves, what is my assignment, instead of what are all the open doors and the opportunities. And during that time, that was the best thing we ever did. We cut off everything outside of the home. There was no extracurricular classes, no going anywhere for ballet, piano, swimming, or we just kept it simple. We just kept it just so basic and simple. And we did the best that we could with fewer things. And I got off my phone completely for a whole year. That was life changing. That was life changing. It's really learning to say no to things that overwhelm us, to things that distract us, that call our attention all the time. Right? I remember teaching my kids the habit of attention, Gretchen, and I began to read to them and tell them that paying attention is to put the full force of their minds in what's in front of them. And yet, the first image that came to my brain was my children speaking to me while I was looking at the computer and me telling them, just wait, mommy's busy. So, how could I teach my kids to pay attention when I didn't know how to pay attention?
You said something very interesting, Anna. You call it the habit of attention.
Yes.
So tell us more about that.
I can talk so much about habits. So, we tend to believe that our children are suddenly going to be attentive, obedient, but these things are not going to happen unless we teach them.
Right.
I don't remember I was ever taught to pay attention. So, of course, my brain was always all over the place. But there's something that we do in homeschooling called habit training that is part of our discipleship. It's part of teaching our kids that it's a game changer, especially when you want to make sure your kids are engaged in the lesson that is in front of them, right? So once they understand that paying attention is to put the full force of their mind in what's in front of them or what's in their hands, that is just echoing in their brain. Wait, I'm not paying attention. Hold on, let me fix that and go back to what's in front of me. And that was a learning curve for me. And I had to identify what was robbing my attention from what was in front of me. And then start cutting those things off. And one of those things was this. And I just had to say, you know what? I don't need this. I really don't need this. Right now, it might sound like weird, but we have no internet in our house. I'm using my neighbor's internet today. She let me use it to talk to you on Zoom. But what we do is we have no internet in the house. We go to the library for a couple of hours every day. We get all of our homeschool done there. Then we come home and whatever we need online. And then we come home, whatever we're doing with our books offline, that's what we do. We rent DVDs from the library. We watch DVDs like in the 80s or the 90s at home. We play tons of board games. We do Bible studies together as a family. We had to learn to redeem our time. There's so many tools, there's so many things in our lives called smart that actually are not helping us to work smarter. It's actually just sucking our time in a way that instead of being more productive, we have been more overwhelmed and less productive because our attention has been in multiple places at the same time. So that habit of attention is where I want everybody to begin. It's one of the best things you can do when you're homeschooling your kids, because without attention, there's no engagement.
It's interesting. I did an interview with Andrew Pudawa, and just about 7 or 8 months ago. And Andrew, our whole conversation was cultivating the art of contemplation. And it was such a valuable conversation to me because, Andrew's response is always so measured in all things. But one of the things he had talked about, which I didn't even realize was a habit until he talked about it, is getting out and getting your hands on first morning light and going for a walk in the morning and
Yes,
how valuable that was. And I know you and I have talked about that because we're both walkers. So talk a little bit more about that.
that is so important. So the habits that you build in your life, I mean, Charlotte Mason says the habits produce the character of the man, right? So their habits, actually, I just spoke about that in a conference this weekend. The habits that we build They work like systems in our lives. If you want to be productive, you have to put systems in place. And even when it comes to our health, right? So the first sunlight that you get every morning, it's helping your circadian rhythm to work the way that it's supposed to, right? So get up in the morning, open your windows, go outside, like ground, if you have a little bit of grass or soil, whatever it is outside, go put your feet out there. My daughter is really good in doing that. And then I have to tell her, go wash your feet now. But it's so important to be outside, to do this, to kind of reset every morning. You know, isn't that beautiful that God says that because of his great love and mercies are, in faithfulness, his mercies are new every morning, right? So think about that. You go outside, and I like to go and tend for my garden and let my dogs out. And then I just remember that God is renewing my life that day. As Anne of Green Gables will say, tomorrow it's a new day with no mistakes in it. So you have a brand new Canva, right? God has renewed his mercies. Your circadian rhythm, it's being renewed and resetted. And there we go. Like, it's a good way to begin the day.
So, Anna, I think I'm hearing you say that less is more.
Less is more, 1,000%. 1,000%. And Gretchen, I'm so glad you brought that up, because when it comes to teaching our children, the shorter the lessons, the more engagement and the more absorption they have.
Of
So
course, you're right now singing my song, but
yeah, that is so important. You guys, you're not in public school anymore. Shake it off. You have complete control over your homeschool. Keep your lessons short, because it's better to teach them in 10 minutes what they're 100% focused and engaged on, than for you to be talking for 40 minutes with nobody even paying attention to what you're saying.
I know there's people in the audience who have this question, and this just occurred to me. Being the mother of 6,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a type A personality. That was one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that drew us to each other is, like recognizes like here. But how did you promote this disconnectedness from the digital world and have your kids not give you pushback?
That's so interesting. We do a lot of discussions. We read a lot of books together, and they are very in tune with the facts. They know that the younger you get into screens, it damages your brain. It literally damages your brain. Your chance of paying attention to anything, it's so much less. And also, social media causes a lot of anxiety. There are great books out there for you to read about.
Does. One of the most impactful ones for me in the last year was Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation.
The anxious
That was
generation.
a hard read, but
Yeah.
boy, was it valuable. I'll include that reference in our show notes for our guests today.
Yeah. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but I think education is always the key. Before you say don't do this, talk about the benefits, the pros and the cons, and say, okay, like, how do we feel about that as a family? And the other thing too is building up your family culture.
You said something really important about that, though. And that is you recognized that you couldn't model attentiveness for your children if you were distracted by your phone.
Yes.
And I think often as parents, we're juggling so many things. We're like, hang on, I'll be with you because I'm just trying to get one more thing done before I'm really with you. And what I'm hearing you say is being with you is far more important than getting one more thing done.
That's right. And so I can tell my kids, don't be in a computer all day if I'm on my computer all day, because they will call me a hypocrite right on my face. They say, Mom, you're doing that and you're telling us not to do. So it has to start with us. It really had to start with us. And also my daughter is saying, she's here in the kitchen saying, my 15-year-old daughter. But, if you don't listen, can I just be honest? We heard that so many times in our lives, monkey see, monkey do. And if you eat whatever you're doing, your kid's gonna end up repeating it. My mom growing up, she used to say to me, do what I say, don't do what I do. But that doesn't work. That doesn't work, right? So you need to start modeling to them, and you need to explain to them, they need to understand the why behind things.
So, Anna, I want you to tell me a little bit more about your family reading time,
Oh my
because
goodness.
I am finding in conversations with families that this is an art that is disappearing. And it is so necessary to give our kids rhythm and cadence that comes from being read to and hearing words read aloud to them. And we don't even realize the depth and breadth of the neurological benefit of doing that. So, tell me how that has evolved for you. How do you all decide on a book together? What does that look like?
We did a lot of read aloud since they were little. That was just part of our family culture. Again, it's really creating, cultivating that family culture. Today, obviously, all high school levels, we don't sit and read aloud as much as we used to. But these kids always have books in their hands. They all are. They just keep, I don't know if you guys can hear them, but they're behind me like, uh-huh. And like, we're actually, well, I don't know if you know this, Gretchen. We're moving countries for the fifth time, and
Yes,
we're
I did
packing
know
up at
that,
the
and that
moment.
it's actually on my list of things to ask you about.
And the
But
hardest thing for us right now is, how are we going to let our books go? Like, how do we take it with us across the ocean?
I can
Like,
certainly understand that when we
I
moved
could leave
back to
all
North
my clothes
Carolina.
behind, my purses, my shoes. I don't care. But when it comes to books, we have
Oh,
such
yeah.
a love for learning, and that is very important. It's modeling that love for learning. If you read aloud to your children, if you make that the most exciting time of, we're just sitting and we're reading stories, we're having conversations, we do narrations, we do discussions, that becomes a habit. So that habit now turns them into independent readers, and they will continue to read books. And when your kids love to read books, the sky's the limit. They will learn anything they need to learn at any point at a time, because I can just get a book and read. I can just watch a YouTube video and learn something. Your goal is to turn them into independent learners, but you're the facilitator, and the role model, right? So those things you need to start building into your homeschool. Now, I want to say, for parents who are starting to homeschool, who do expect their children to sit and not move doing read aloud, you are planning for failing. So, um, when you're reading aloud to your children, if they need to have their hands busy with whatever it is, Play-Doh, Lego, whatever it is, let them, coloring pages, let them have it. I had a child who had to walk around in circles because he had some special needs, and uh, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're not paying attention, because remember, you taught them to pay attention, right? And because we narrate and we have conversations, we have discussions after, I know how much they remember, how much they absorb from what we're reading.
How long is a reading period for you, Anna?
It depends on the books. There are books that my kids could just like, Mom, can we just do more? Can we just keep reading another chapter? But if you're starting, keep it short, keep it simple. If you keep those two things in mind, keep it short, keep it simple. And if you cannot read aloud for some reason, put the audiobooks on. What I love about reading aloud is that, and something that Charlotte Mason talked a lot, also the way that she taught, it's good for the kids to hear and to see the words, right? Because stories are the way that humans learn naturally to begin with. It helps us build vocabulary. I mean, there's tremendous benefits for reading aloud, right? But sometimes, for some reason, I couldn't sit down and read to them, I will put an audiobook, but I'll give them the printed version of the book so they could still look at the book. They could still look at the illustrations and listen to the stories. I'll tell you a quick story. I went through a very traumatic pregnancy loss where I was hospitalized 5 times, and I was in bed for almost 6 months. It was very traumatizing. We learned, not only we had to learn to grieve for the first time as a family, but I had severe consequences, and it was a very difficult time in our homeschool, and we had to keep the absolutely basic going on. It was our math still going, and it was our audiobooks going, because mom didn't have the strength to get up and read and do it, anything. And my kids sat around me in my bed, on my bed, to do their homeschool every day. I call this my paper plates and audiobook season of life. And I just want you guys to keep that in mind. Your homeschool doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do too much every day. But if you create good habits, and if you have consistency, and you give your children a love for learning and a love for reading, then everything continues to flow. Either you're capable of doing 100% of things or 10% of things at that moment, right? So I also want to speak that to the heart of the mom who just had a baby, or has a surgery coming up, or something is, there's sickness, and whatever happened, we will go through difficult situations in life, and homeschool doesn't have to stop completely. But if you do need to stop, please do it.
Right.
You know, there are days in our lives that it's totally okay to put the books aside and go outside instead. Go for a walk instead. And you pick up the next day.
So, Anna, here you are now, though, it's 14 years into the process. You have 3 teenagers, and you're running a business, and you're doing speaking engagements. So you are
And I teach
still that,
Hebrew.
and you are still that type A personality. So tell us a little bit about how it evolved for you to teach Hebrew, because this is a fascinating part of your story, and I want to make sure it gets included.
Yes. Oh, I want to share that. Yeah. I always tell people, like, Hebrew is my love language. I love Hebrew. 70% of the Bible was written in Hebrew. And as being a Jewish believer in Jesus, who had the opportunity to live in Israel for many years and study in Israel, and till my babies were born there, um, it is life changing when you're able to read the original language of the Bible. And I say this with joy and with sadness at the same time, because we lose a lot with translation. We lose so much with translation. People don't understand, especially that the majority of English translation comes from a translation, which is the Septuagint, which was translated into the Greek and then translated into English. And we can't translate, as a person who speaks 5 languages as well, there's a lot of things you cannot translate word to word, because words might sound the same and look the same and have different meanings. And so I am very, very passionate about Hebrew. As I said, my kids were born in Israel. We lived in Israel when we got married. We were there. We started serving in full-time ministry there as youth pastors
Now,
and
did
young
you
adult
grow up
pastors.
speaking Hebrew?
No, I didn't grow up speaking Hebrew. I had Hebrew around me. My family was very secular, but we lived in a Jewish neighborhood, and all my friends are Jewish, and all my boyfriends were Jewish. But we had nothing to do with God or anything, or Hebrew or synagogue or nothing. Like, we were completely secular. We actually, like, I went to a Catholic school as part of my life, of my upbringing. So totally like random. Very, very, yeah. So
So
I
now,
did not.
I don't think I know this portion of your story. Were you born here in the United
No,
States?
I was born in Brazil. I was born in Rio
Exactly.
and came here when I was
I
21. Yes. So I was born in Brazil. Um, you know, yeah, there's so much that I could talk about it. There's a great population of Jewish people in Brazil, and Brazil was actually colonized by the Portuguese, and the majority of what called new Christians who colonized Brazil were the ones who were forced to convert from Judaism to Catholicism. So the Jewish influence, it's very big, although the majority of people don't even know that they come from a Jewish descendants. It's very, very interesting. Culturally, it's very interesting. But no, so I fell in love with Hebrew when I fell in love with Jesus. And I fell in love with Judaism when I fell in love with Jesus, because I was like, oh, my Messiah, he's Jewish. And the Hebrew Bible is the Jewish Bible. And, like Israel is a real place on the map, and this is where all of those miracles happen. This is, like, which is so twisted when we hear what people are saying today about Israel and the Jews. It grieves me so much. I can only imagine how much it grieves the heart of Jesus. But I fell in love with all of those things, and I started studying Hebrew. God made such a big miracle and sent me to study at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, but not in Jerusalem. Long story, I was approved to go to Jerusalem to study at the Hebrew University when there was a bomb that exploded at the cafeteria at the university. Don't think I shared that story with you. So I got a letter saying, unfortunately, because of the terrorist attack that we just suffered, we're not taking in international students. And I grieved so much because for years I was preparing myself to go there. And then I prayed and I prayed and I said, God, if you can't take me to the Hebrew University, can you bring the Hebrew University to me? And lo and behold, I got another letter in the mail a few months later saying, for the first time in history, the Hebrew University is bringing their intensive Hebrew courses to Columbia University in New York. And I end up going there. I was the only believer in the program. I was called into the director's office and told that I could not speak to anybody about Jesus. And I couldn't tell anybody about Jesus, but I could tell everybody that God healed me from cancer and that I just love God, and I carried my Bible with me everywhere. And I hang out with all my teachers. They kept asking me, you have such a joy, Anna, like, what is it that you have different? And on the last day, after I finished my last final, I told them all about Jesus and I left. And my teacher, one of my teachers at that time, she was the first one to pick me up in Israel when I moved there and take me to her house and tell me to just tell my family what you told me, you know? So the doors that God opened, right? So anyway, so this is just to share a little bit about Hebrew. And then one day I decided on my Facebook group to post and say, hey, I'm going to teach my kids Hebrew because they're forgetting everything.
Remember you saying this.
Do you remember that? I'm like, I'm going to teach my kids Hebrew because they forgot. They're not speaking any Hebrew at all. Does anybody want to join me? And we had no sales page, no nothing. I had like a link to my PayPal, and we had 141 families joining me to learn Hebrew. And we call it Hebrew for Homeschoolers. And we just received our second award this year. And it is just a joy. I've taught thousands of homeschool family, and everything that we do is with the Bible. We go to the Bible. We learn all the Hebrew words and verbs and idioms and cultural things, and they memorize Bible verses. It is so powerful, and it's just a joy. It's much more than just learning a language. It's really understanding the Bible. That's what it is.
You all can see why I wanted to have this conversation, because I knew it was going to be rich and deep. But Anna, in the closing moments here, what would be your final thoughts to parents? And of course, we had parents ask about Hebrew. You and I have touched on that. I will make sure that we include a link
Thank
to
you.
your website in our show notes so parents can find out more, because what a fantastic experience that would be. But in the closing minutes, what would you like to leave in the minds of our guests today?
Oh, I want to say something that it resonates so much with me and changed the way that I did everything. Charlotte Mason said that the Holy Spirit is the supreme educator of mankind. You are not meant to do this alone. If you take on homeschooling as a chore and a task, you will burn out. But
Mhm.
when you partner with the Holy Spirit every day, and you just thank God for the blessing that you have to shepherd that flock that God has given to you, and you do it in partnership with the Holy Spirit, it changes everything. It changes
Mhm.
everything. It becomes your ministry. It becomes, oh goodness, it's really discipleship. This is homeschooling is not about checking off things from the list. It's not about how much more can we like it's not about if I do more pages, I will learn more. It's not like that. It's not like that. And it's really it's God sent paper because we will grow as we teach them. You are going to learn and grow with your children. You're a facilitator of learning in your home. So keep that in mind, that don't do it alone. Don't do it as a chore and a task. Do it because you got to do it's a blessing, it's a gift, and you don't do it alone because you do it with the Holy Spirit, who is the supreme educator of mankind.
I love the fact that you said be a student of your child because I mean, I know in retrospect, I often had the misapprehension upon occasion that all my kids learned some particular task the same way. And I look back in that in retrospect, they did not, not in the least. They were all wildly different. And, people will say to me, but you had 6 children. Yeah, but I had 6 children and I spread them over 20 years. So I had 4 and 8, and then I waited 6 years for 5 and 6 more for 6. And so I had the privilege of a group of children, but then I had the privilege of only children as well. And when I finally embraced the fact that each one of them was wildly different, our relationship changed and it became richer. And I think your children have that blessing because I hear that in your voice and the things that you say about them, how each one of them is different. You're going to have to come back and join me again after this giant
I
move
will.
happens because I can't wait to see what it's like. There are families who are like, "Oh, I'm going to have to quit homeschooling. We have to move." And you're not
Oh
going to
no.
that's your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna have to come back and tell me, when does
we
this great move happen?
well, it's gonna start in 4 weeks, and it's gonna go in stages. We're actually doing our last big road RV road trip in the States. We're going to Canada for a few months, and then I haven't disclosure where we're moving to yet. I thought we were going to one place. God is calling us to another one. But to build a hub so we could be in both places at the same time. So it's something God is opening up, something really exciting. But I'll tell you this, make it an, like the best out of what God is putting in your life at that moment. It doesn't have to be a drag. It doesn't have to be a trauma. It could still be pleasant. And we're already researching all the castles and the places that we can visit once we move to this new country. And we're excited. We're excited. It not to say that it's hard packing everything and getting rid of things and stuff, but you are also responsible to how you present that to your children. And yes, it's hard. We talk about the hard part, but we also talk about the new adventures God is bringing to our lives. And every child will always welcome adventures.
Tell us where people can find you online. Give us your website.
Yeah, so I blog at theycallmeblessed.org. Or you can also go to annawillis.com. It will take you there. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, just telling you guys this, but I do
Well,
get
how
the
could you
messages.
spend time on social media when you only have 2 hours a day at the library? Come on, let's be
I
real.
don't. I don't. And I'll tell you this, two things that I teach moms to do: outsourcing and automation. Outsource and automation. Okay. Part of all those systems that keep our house going and our families going. So yeah, you don't have to do
So,
everything.
before we go, tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me what outsourcing and animation automation means to you.
Okay, so let's talk about outsourcing. For example, instead of teaching kids math, you can get Matthew C and have Stephen teaching the kids. That's what I'm saying. That's a way of outsourcing something, right? Get somebody else to teach your kids, or somebody else. Like, we get meals delivered to us. We used to have HelloFresh, and they would deliver our meals every Monday morning. So that's a type of outsourcing. Now we do more of the meals, but we order our meats for the whole month. And that's outsourcing, which actually means we keep in the budget, and I don't have to go to the grocery store all the time. Saves time, and we keep on the budget, right? So that's outsourcing. It's getting somebody else to do something to take that off your plate and do it for you. Like my friend Jenna May always taught our music classes online for the kids. So that's outsourcing. Now, automation, it's when, for example, my Roomba cleans my floor and I don't have to do, right? So I love that. It is the fastest and most efficient. I don't know. I don't think so, but it gets the dog's hair from the floor and I don't have to be home while I go to the library. It can clean the floor for me. That's an automation. Putting alarms on your phone so you don't forget to do things. That's a type of automation you can create in your, I'm actually right now, just for fun, I'm working on an app for homeschool moms so they can track all of their homeschool. I'm having so much fun on my 2 hours at the library working little bits on that project. But, anything that you can outsource or can create systems, like a loop schedule for your meals. That's a system, that's automation. When you batch cooking and you put those meals ready in your freezer,
Oh,
you're making your life
absolutely.
easier. So look for those strategies that will make your life easier. I'd rather cook, for 2-3 hours once a week and then just get everything ready for the week,
Mhm.
or not. So
I
whatever
have to
works for
say,
you.
there was a book when I had been homeschooling about 2 years, and, my homeschooling buddy called me and she said, "We're gonna put 30 meals in the freezer." And I said, "You can't do that. You're nuts." And
My
she's like,
mom
"Oh,
used to do
no, yes,
that.
you can." And we started that, okay, let me think now. So 30 plus years ago. Ooh, now I'm telling my age. And I still do that today. Before I start my conference season, there will be a list on the refrigerator because I don't like to come home from conference and there are 10 pizza boxes in my garage because I know
Mhm.
that my adult sons and my husband have been, it's too much work. We'll just one call does it all. So instead, I know that if I have put 30 meals in the freezer, I know they have food to eat and they're happy to do that. So
And
that's
healthy.
yes.
And
Yeah.
they
Well,
didn't spend money out.
true.
So,
Absolutely.
by the way, I have a free master class that is called How to Run Your Home and Homeschool on Autopilot, where I actually go through all of that and I give you printables for all of that, even on how to plan your meals in less than 10 minutes a week.
So
So,
Anna, can you find that at annawillis.com?
yeah, you can find there, you go where it says, let me see, there's like 3 things on one of the little options on the top. Click on freebies and you're going to find it there.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, we'll make sure that we point people in that direction with the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me and
thank you so much for
safe
having
travel
me.
here. I will be in touch soon. Thank you to all of you who joined us today, and we'll look forward being invited into your home again soon. Take care, everyone. Have a
Bye,
wonderful
everybody.
afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for joining us. We're glad to be a part of your educational community. You can help us grow our community even more by rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the show wherever you may be hearing this. Don't forget that you can access the show notes and watch a recording at demilearning.com/show or on our YouTube channel. We'll see you again next time. Until then, keep building strong foundations for lifelong learning.